Hello, everybody, and welcome to our latest Oprah Daily Insiders Roundtable, where we invite you into conversations with thought leaders and change makers about topics that will help you, we like to say, live your best life. You see Oprah's here. She's watching over us. Hey, Oprah. According to a recent report, there are 13 million businesses in this country owned by women. But despite those massive numbers, many women still face uphill battles when it comes to running their businesses. For example, only 2.3%, I'm going to say that again because the number's so low, 2.3% of all venture capital goes to female entrepreneurs. Here is a jaw-dropping stat. Female-owned businesses generate $1.8 trillion, that's trillion with a T, a year. And that number is only going to continue to grow because last year, listen to this, the number of businesses owned by women increased by nearly 30%. More than ever, female entrepreneurs are a force to be reckoned with. You know the song that Beyonce says, "Who runs the world? Girls." To talk about all of this and more, I'm happy to be sitting down with three incredible, I'll say it, badass female founders. First, we have Kristin Sudeikis. Hey, Kristin. She's the founder and CEO. Hello. Founder and CEO and creative director of Forward Space, which offers 50-minute dance-based sweat sessions at their flagship location in downtown New York City, and through their virtual hub, which has had users in over 100 different countries around the world. Kristin, I'm thinking 50 minutes of sweat. Okay, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, okay, good.
All right, let me just ask you this. Are you a good dancer?
Oh, thank you for asking. I love to dance. I'm going to dance in just a little bit. I've been told I'm a good dancer, but I guess it's subjective. I know that when I'm dancing, I feel connected to something greater than myself, which is an incredible, phenomenal, euphoric feeling. So, yeah.
I always say this, when you're dancing, you can't be unhappy. So bravo to you. Next up, we have Laura Modi. Laura is the co-founder and CEO of Bobbie, which is the only female-founded formula company and mom-led formula company in this country. They're organic formulas based on European formulas, and the company offers, this is the thing that's so cool about it, a subscription service so that moms never, ever, ever run out. Full disclosure, favorite grandson, Luca, my first and only grandson so far, loves his Bobbie formula. And so I've seen it in action firsthand. Good to see you again, Laura, and welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Gayle. Delighted to be here.
Delighted to have you. And finally, we have Emma Grede. Emma is the CEO and co-founder, along with Khloe Kardashian, of Good American. That's a founding partner of Skims. We all know Skims, which is valued at more than $1.6 billion. She's also the co-founder of Safely, a line of safe cleaning products. She's also the chairman of the 15% Pledge, which encourages retailers to devote at least 15% of their shelf space to Black-owned businesses, and a board member of The Real Real. Hello, Emma. I don't think you have enough to do. Welcome. Welcome, welcome.
I couldn't be happier to be here.
We're so glad you guys are all here. Let's start the conversation this way.
I would never want to correct you, Gayle, ever, but I do think it's important.
Yes.
Skims is actually valued at $3.2 billion, which just because there's not a lot of us out there, I just want to sprinkle it in. It's a thing.
Emma, bravo. And I'm so I am so glad you corrected me. Please say the number again, Emma. Say it again.
It's 3.2, 3 and a 2.
I like it. And good on you. And good on you for correcting, because you know what? It's such a female thing to do sometimes, that you know something is wrong. You go, well, I don't want to say anything. I'll let that go. Bravo to you. I'm so glad you did that. And congrats. So let's start by talking about how all of you came up with the ideas for your businesses. I'm going to start with you because I read that Good American was born out of the feeling that so many women feel left out of the fashion conversation. So talk to me about what that felt like to you, how you felt left out of fashion.
Well, Gayle, it's a great thing because, I spent the first 10 years of my career, I had a media business, a business where you would put talent and entertainment properties together. And I was for years and years that person that would almost be, you know, casting by design. You know, I would get brands come to me and say, hey, you know, we're looking for a girl who's this size, or, you know, we're looking for somebody that will resonate with this audience. So she needs to be from this background. But the reality of the companies was that they weren't really a true reflection of what they were presenting through a marketing campaign. And my thought was like, what if you were actually, you know, the type of company that was truly diverse and truly inclusive, that it wasn't part of a marketing campaign to say, oh, this season we look this way. But the reality is that you're not actually serving those customers. And that's where the idea came from, just years of working in fashion and seeing things that, and a lot of companies that weren't really the sum of their parts. And so my idea was like, let's just remove all the labels. I don't think women think about themselves in terms of the size of their backside. My friends come from all different backgrounds and we're all different shapes and sizes. And, you know, when we shop, we all want to go and shop together. And it just seemed to me that this, you know, it was just archaic, the way that, you know, you would get plus size up on the 5th floor of some like department store. It'd be like this much stuff that nobody wanted. And I just thought, you know, that can't be what we're saying to women is the right way to do things.
And it's not attractively displayed either. Is it true that Good American will only go into retailers who agree to sell the full size range that you offer? That was important to you, right?
100%. And it was a principle from the beginning. It became a principle because right at the outset, you know, when we launched this $1 million day and a ton of press, the first retailer or the first wholesaler that came to us and asked for the collection and approached me said, we'd really love to stock your brand and we'll take it from sizes 0 to a 10. And I was like, that's not the point. That's not what we're doing. And so to take the halo effect without actually, you know, putting your money where your mouth is, and even really understanding, I got told all the time, you know, we just don't have the customer, Emma. And I'd be like, well, you do have the customer. She's just buying handbags and shoes because you don't offer her anything. And so it's really been an education, really showing people that this customer does exist. She does want to buy quality. And actually, it's our job in the fashion industry to serve up the options. And we let the women make the choice.
Yeah, and the average size in this country, by the way, is 14, creeping up on 16. Laura, I want to, it is. I haven't been a size 10. Let's see, I was a size 10 in 10th grade, about 10th grade. Laura, what about you? So you had a big job at Airbnb. I know Airbnb very well. And you came up with the idea for Bobbie. First, talk about the name. Where did the name come from? I love this name, Bobbie.
The name, my daughter actually named it because she would call her bottle a Bobbie. And I never had the courage to correct her because it was so cute. So now anything that goes into a bottle, she calls a Bobbie. And it was just such a natural fit. But you're right. I was at Airbnb.
Bobbie kind of sounds like booby too.
It does. It does. A little cheeky wink, which I hope never hurts me in the Claims world in the future. But so far, so good. Yeah, I was at Airbnb, came from the world of technology between Google and joined a small company at the time. It was called Air Bed and Breakfast. Now being able to say, as you know, just loosely that I was part of Airbnb and everyone knows what it is still a surprise, actually.
Yes.
But I had my first kid while I was there. I was the director of hospitality. I led host operations and community. I was obsessed with my career. I mean, truly, the idea of leaving technology never crossed my mind. But when you're faced with a problem, and a problem as hard as breastfeeding, you just can't shake it.
And why was breastfeeding a problem? What was hard about breastfeeding? Because people say, oh, that's so natural. What was hard about it?
Nothing about it was natural, at least for me. I think as an Irish Catholic woman, I probably went into it assuming this is going to be easy. The skies are going to open up. It's going to be gorgeous, just like the movies. And it was so far from. I got an infection within 2 weeks, and it was mastitis, a very common infection that many women are used to. And I had to turn to an alternative. And that alternative that I turned to just left me feeling guilty, embarrassed. It had ingredients I would never feed myself. And I just couldn't shake the feeling. But it was returning to Airbnb that it really hit me, because I went back to work and I was supplementing with formula and breastfeeding. And I go back to a director level job in a company and realize that to exclusively breastfeed this child, it's going to take me 35 hours a week. But yet the same government.
That's another job. Yeah.
It's another job. And we're expected to go back and climb the career ladder. But also the same government says, but do you mind spending, more time breastfeeding your child? I couldn't reconcile that conflict. So yeah, that was the birth of Bobbie.
I know. And so then you decided to adjust. The thing that's so beautiful about what you do is the formulas that you have, and that it's subscription. What's different about Bobbie milk compared to others?
So, this also being European, I was looking at the standards back in Europe, and people were proud of their milk. They were proud of their formula. So we have designed our formulation to be the first and only European style formula that also meets FDA requirements. Pasture raised milk, no corn syrup, no palm oil. I mean, honestly, the kind of formulation I wanted to feed my baby. And no one wants to run to the store to buy their milk. So you get it in a traditional way to your doorstep. Milkman 2.0.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. I want to go back to you about this subscription, because I know it's been a lifesaver for many mothers, my own daughter included. Kristin, one of the things I love learning about you is that you have been dancing. So when I asked you the question, are you a good dancer? I knew you were, because you've been dancing since you were 3 years old. I know you've spent much of your life as a choreographer, and I'm wondering how the idea for Forward Space started percolating in your head.
A similar through line I'm noticing with all of us is our passion for seeing something that we know, feel intrinsically with every part of our being that we can enhance and make better, and this idea of not just vision, but legacy is what I'm thinking and feeling as you all are speaking. And what I certainly know with this idea of dance, movement, and the medicine it provides for an individual, community, and the world at large, in that order, over and over again. For self, first and foremost, to connect to the self and release and connect to the rhythm, the innate heartbeat. It's in there. It's in there, Gayle. We'll get, the rhythm. It's in there. Just to tap into the heartbeat of it, and then connect to someone next to us if we're on a dance floor, be it at a wedding reception, be it at a slumber party way back. We all know the feeling going out dancing of what it is to feel, fully alive and not thinking about all the other things that might creep up into the mind, into the intellect, into the academic, but to drop down into the body and just feel that sense of freedom and liberation. And I notice the through line of the passion that we see in our different worlds. So in the dance world, I very much saw for dancers and also non-dancers, people would ask me so often, Kristin, where can I just go dance? Where can I just go dance? What if I go the wrong way? Will they look at me, if I go right and you go left? And I started to create these experiences all over the world, definitely in New York and LA, underground spaces. And then the demand just was getting higher. But it wasn't just the external demand. And I'm curious if you all feel this too. It was also an internal calling. So for me, it was a both and, a deep, deep, strong, never ending internal call to create this hybrid of what would be a moving meditation, an athletic conditioning, and also dance, learning choreography. And then
that's what I want to know. What kind of dances are you talking about? What kind of, we have the Jane Fonda exercise dance class. I hear people taking salsa classes. Tweety was doing hip hop. So when you say moving and dancing, because choreography sounds like it's hard to me, and that I don't get the impression that's what you're talking about.
The class has a section where you learn choreography at the end. So what it simulates is a conversation, sort of like what we're having, where we're tapping in and listening. So if I'm leading, even if I'm leading like this, and if you all start to go with me, so you're listening and moving with me. And then I start to move, a different way, maybe opening and closing the chest, contracting and expanding. You start to move with me. And that's the choreography. The choreography aspect, I think, is really interesting of Forward Space, in that it's learning, tapping into a skill that maybe you haven't tried yet. And especially as adults, sometimes we don't want to step into something we've never done before, because we've, been in spaces where we know what we're doing. And when we invite ourselves and have the vulnerability and the courage to step into a room, which we have certainly have as founders, I mean, unknown territory all day, every day,
Yes,
all
all
day,
day,
every day.
every day.
But to do it on
I
the
know.
dance floor and learn that skill set is interesting. So you do learn a little choreography. Gail, we got to have you. We got to have you
Okay.
up for it.
I know. Let me ask you, do you think anybody could do what you're talking about, can show up at your class and do it?
I do, and I also, we have the virtual hub expression. So if for those that,
like that.
definitely, if you need to be seated to express yourself through movement, you can do that and do the upper body. So the virtual hub is a way to do it if perhaps standing and being all the way up and moving isn't available to you. The virtual hub, you can still express yourself and go through the class and through the 50-minute expression while seated.
Well, Emma and Laura, you all are both co-founders, and I'm curious for each of you, what makes a good business partner? Emma, we certainly know the names of your partners are well known, Kim, the Kardashians and Kris Jenner. Sarah, I know your partner as well. Emma, what makes a good business partner for you?
Well, I often think it's about complementary skill set. In the beginning, you don't want a business partner that comes to the table with what you have. And certainly, I would say when I started the business with Chloe, we're so different in so many ways that became so obvious from the beginning, like where we were going to work in the business and how we would complement each other. I think as the businesses grow and you inevitably bring tons of people on and your role continues to evolve and change, it really becomes about a trust level with one another. And also this, I guess with the family and what Kris and Kim and Chloe all have, in common is despite all the success they've had, that they are the hardest working people in the room. And that is something that, you have such immense respect for after so many years working together, because I know that whatever happens, they are going to make something work. They're going to come to the table. They're going to work as hard as anybody else. And so there's an enormous amount of respect that I have in that.
Yeah, they're not riding on their laurels, or not all of them.
No,
all of them are yeah. I don't think people really understand. They look at the surface stuff, but I know that there's a real there.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone in any profession really stays at the top of their game unless you're willing to evolve and to, keep working. And I think that's what's so impressive about them, really knowing how you can be complementary to somebody else. Like, how do you let somebody else take the lead and then do what you're really good at? And that for me is, so important when you're building teams. And as I said, as the businesses get much bigger, you don't want to be able, you don't want to do every single thing yourself. And so for me, it's become, I think in all of the companies, there's such a love for the people and for what we do. And there's such a challenge with that as things get bigger.
Laura, how do you work so well with your co-founder, Sarah Hardy? Why do you think that the two of you complement each other, as Emma was pointing out? And what happens when you disagree?
Oof, great question. I wish this question was asked when I was marrying my husband, by the way. We could have reset expectations then. I do think it happens on the onset of a relationship, and it's really important. And Sarah and I have done a great job at this, which is have very open conversations around expectations in role, decision-making structures. We aligned on the vision. And by setting those expectations really early on in what we really refer to as like a partnership agreement, it then allows us to constantly go back to that and revisit it. And just like Emma was saying, the business day one is going to evolve year after year. It's our job to go back and revisit it. But I credit the onset of our relationship setting those expectations to why I don't know if we look at things as disagreements, more so as really healthy debates. And again, not what I would say to my husband, which is complete the opposite. But we have set very clear expectations about how we manage the business. And I would say that is also extended into additional hires. Again, two people can't take it on. You end up hiring other leaders in the business, other VPs. So exactly the same structure gets applied.
The pandemic, Kristin, as you know, has changed the way a lot of people work out. And many of these fitness spaces actually didn't make it during this pandemic. I think it really is a testament to how dedicated your clients are, how good you are, and that forward space continued to thrive. But that had to come with some hardships, didn't it, during this particular
Absolutely.
time?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
how did you get through it?
How to navigate
How
that?
big?
Yes.
First,
Yes.
Kristin, how big is your team, and how did you get through it?
Thank you. 32 people. I'm the 32nd. How did we get through it?
It's interesting. Wait, Kristin. Wait, Kristin. Wait. It's interesting
I'm
that
so
you
glad
said
you're
32
going back
people.
on that one.
Yeah. What am I going to say, Emma? Emma, what am I going to say?
He's going to say, Kristin, tell me, why do you label yourself as the 32nd?
Yes.
I love it.
You didn't
Okay.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, Mom said psych. Okay,
Very good, Emma. Very good. Yes.
I was looking at the etymology of the word founder, the etymology of it. Curious, this is a conversation about founders. And then it came down to foundation. The foundation, as me being 32nd, I think of, I'm at the front, but I'm also at the back, right? And the foundation, building from here up. And so if anyone on the team up to 32 is feeling any type of way, I pause because a team of 32 is quite tight, quite small for that time, this tender time of going through these last 2 years. So how did we navigate it? Each teammate's needs were vastly different. And the experience for each individual of our phenomenal, diverse team was vastly different. And creating time and space to tune into each individual need is what I felt called to do. I also think of this, the micro and the macro, in that zooming out, let me zoom way out. What is needed right now? What is needed from a zoomed out perspective for the company, for the internal team, for the company, for the customer, for the guest? We use the word guest instead of customer, for the guest. And then that's like the exhale. Let me zoom out. And then I come into the day and I inhale and go into the minutia of what can I do today? What can I do in this hour? What choice can be made? What way can I use my presence to be with just the one person, to hear what they're needing, to attune to that without getting overwhelmed?
I know, Laura, we were talking about the pandemic. I know you must have had, we did this on the news many times about the supply chain issues, getting the formula to the mothers. How did you all get through that, especially with this subscription service? Did you have to pivot in the middle as well?
It's very hard. I mean, truly, it's so hard to look at the news and not see something about formula shortages. I don't think I ever thought I would be here where infant formula is something that you cannot find. I mean, we are a first world country, and you walk into Target and Walmart and you cannot buy infant formula. It's shocking. And also, I mean, to speak as a mother, it's scary. It is scary. You choose to feed your baby a certain way and you're unable to buy the product. Well, you mentioned this earlier on, Gayle. I mean, the biggest advantage we have being a direct-to-consumer business is when you sign up for us, we sign up for you. So we know exactly how much formula you're going to need. So I feel very fortunate, which is, if you're signing and joining Bobbie, we are essentially creating the bank of formula that you're going to need.
Emma, you say that you were raised with a single mom because with very little means. I'm very fascinated for female entrepreneurs to raise the money, what it takes to raise the money, because you now run multi-million-dollar, not businesses. What advice do you give for women who don't have a ton of resources, but they've got great ideas and they can be great entrepreneurs? But before you answer that, I want to know what it took for each of you to raise the money that you needed to make your business a success. Emma, you go first, please.
It's such a complicated subject, and I'm so glad you started this conversation with those kind of unbelievable facts of how under-financed women are for their ideas. And, I think when you just look at women as just in general, that those numbers shrink even further when we start to talk about Black women and women of color. I was incredibly lucky because the 15 years leading up to me starting Good American, I had, an agency. It wasn't my first time raising money. I'd actually exited 2 companies. And so I had a track record where I'd made a number of individuals a lot of money. And so when you're on your 3rd startup and you come back for some more, I didn't have the same uphill struggle that I know so many other female founders have. I think the most important thing when you're starting any business is that you really have to go inside yourself and make sure that you're doing something that you love and you feel that there is a need for and that you're going to love doing. Because starting a business isn't for the faint of heart. It's really difficult. It's really hard. And, if you're an emotional woman like I am, it can be really sad sometimes. You walk into a room and, I found myself going, you just don't get it. You just don't understand what I'm trying to do, Like, we'll do this, or, we'll take this bit, or like, we like your idea, but, and I'd be like, no buts. Like, no. And it's so interesting because my husband is also an entrepreneur. And I would just see him kind of walk out and go and raise the money and come home and be like, done. You're like, what? What do you mean? It's so frustrating. And it really was in my household. It was like night and day. The brilliant thing now and the way the landscape's changed. And, even in my own micro way, me going on to Shark Tank when I was asked to be on the last season, there are so many women out there that are looking to back other women. There are so many firms that are female founder focused, and that's really changing the landscape. Now, it isn't happening at the speed that I really think it should, or even at the level that it should be, considering, women are at the helm of so many brilliant businesses, but it's starting to happen. And I find it so much easier when you're talking to an audience of people that are potentially your customers and really understand the problem that you're trying to solve for. And so I'm really happy to see, funds that are dedicated to backing women that are starting to emerge, and more female founders actually putting their money where their mouth is, I do, and investing in other female founders.
Yeah, there is a great entertainment attorney in LA. Maybe you know her, Emma, Nina Shaw, who says,
Oh, yeah.
do you want to be a woman in power? Empower other women. And I so love that because I think that's so true. Laura, what about for you in terms of trying to raise money? Did people take you seriously at first? Was it harder because you were a woman? I want to know what it was like. Did people say, sounds like a good idea, but no, we don't see it? What was it like to raise the money? Yeah. Do you have something that was particularly egregious that you thought, you're not going to believe what they said to me? Do you have one of those?
Okay. So I'll tell you about the first round, which is obviously, it's always the hardest to bring in that capital. I was 7 months pregnant with my second child. And I was kind of similar to you, Emma. I'm watching my husband going around pitching people coming in going, I got 5 million here, this. I'm going, I'm just looking for someone to bite. Very disheartening. I pitched 68 investors in 2 months. 55 of them were men. I used the word boobs and mastitis and talked about hormones and the mental state to a point where I realized that even my own pitch wasn't landing for the audience I was pitching. You mentioned, when it comes to funding women, you also need female investors at the other side of the table. They're the ones who are going to see the problem. And I was walking out, one investor after another, realizing they don't see the problem. They just think I'm in a very vulnerable emotional state. And I mean, I was 7 months pregnant. So
Yes.
a little emotional.
Yes.
But I did. I raised 2.5 million a week before I delivered my child. And It was the proudest few million I ever raised. But it was hard. It was very hard.
I like, Emma, that you're the chairwoman of the 15% pledge, because diversity and inclusion is clearly important to you. But what motivated you to do that? That's not something you hear about very often.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was such an easy decision for me because, I was almost sick of myself. You have to remember, I didn't grow up in this country. I grew up in England where I'm certainly not saying that racism doesn't exist, but it wasn't thrust in my face every single day. I wasn't waking up to stories of police brutality and people being shot in their living rooms on a day-to-day basis. And so when I moved to this country, I found myself in a constant state of trauma. every single day. And, you know, I was becoming a bit of an Instagram activist, and I was like, dude, this is just not me. Like, I'm not a person who doesn't do stuff. You know, I'm a doer. I'm not someone who just like moans about their issues and doesn't actually try to action some type of change. And when I saw what Aurora James was doing, she's the founder of the 15% Pledge, which is this unbelievable nonprofit where I'm the chairwoman now. You know, I was just moved by it. And I thought, you know, that it's a very basic premises. You know, Black people make up 15% of the population of this country, and therefore retailers ought to redirect 15% of their buys to Black-owned businesses. Super simple, right? To me, it was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And actually being in the business that I am, and without sounding entirely arrogant, you know, there's not many CEOs of retailers that won't take my call. And so I thought, you know, perhaps I can help them. Perhaps I can do this. And I've got 10 years of nonprofit experience and, of course, 15 years of experience in doing brand partnerships. So I thought, you know, there is no place that I can have more impact than the 15% pledge. And so I got to work straight away. I called Aurora. I actually slid into her DMs. So it was a very, you know, thing that you would do nowadays. I slid into her DMs and I told her what I could do. And, you know, I got to work. I got on the phone to Pete Nordstrom and I said, hey, I think you should sign the 15% pledge. Have you heard about it? And, you know, it was one thing after another.
Had he heard about it? Had he heard
about
what?
it? He had heard about it.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, what people don't really understand is that the 15% pledge, it's not like a, hey, yeah, like nod to this, we'll just do it. It's a contract. And, you know, I was so appreciative of, especially, you know, Pete Nordstrom's response to this, because he really thought about it deeply and said, you know, we're a publicly traded company and we're an enormous company, I think $20 billion market cap. So how do you actually do that and be truthful about it? So we spent a long time actually strategizing and thinking what that actually looked like. And so, you know, for the businesses that have taken the pledge, Sephora, Ulta, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, and on and on and on, we have 28 individual pledge takers. It's a very serious undertaking because we don't want retailers to go out there and sign up Black-owned businesses and then put them back in the pile and just cross their fingers and hope for the best. We want those businesses to actually be successful at retail and to have the sell-throughs that are going to keep them in the right place and front and center. And so there's a, you know, an enormous commitment behind making that a reality, and businesses have to go inside internally and change the way that they're doing things now, because we know there are no shortage of Black-owned or female-owned businesses. There's a shortage of the buyers internally that understand that's an option and that Black brands aren't just for Black people. And I strongly believe with the purpose-based companies that I run, you know, we make a decision on what we want to do every time we open our wallets, right? When I buy Bobbie, it's because I feel a kinship and some type of, you know, relationship with what they're trying to do and what they stand for. And so I believe that we all do that every day. And so the 15% pledge is really just enabling retailers to come up to speed with what's happening in the world.
Laura, I want to talk to you about your recent announcement in April about the paternity leave at your company. Please share that, because when I read that, I went, whoa, I'd never heard of such a thing.
And you know, share. So isn't that shocking? So we announced that we are giving 12 months of leave to our parents. And, you know, it's funny to say this as a European because in
12 months, wow.
That should be the norm. And in so many parts of the world, that is the norm. But yet here we are, and we celebrate every additional week like it's a very special thing. Having children, raising children as a European here in the US, I found, you know, that discrepancy quite hard to be able to reconcile. I was watching my sister and my cousins all at home taking leave and being able to take the really what was medical leave, mental leave.
So how does that work a year? How does that work? How does that work when you say take a year? It's paid for the whole year? Is a mother or a father? What do you mean exactly?
Great question. So we don't pay for it all. We pay up to 4 months. So we pay 100% up to 4 months for both father and mother. And then we protect the job up to 12 months. But we still allow you to vest your equity, have your benefits. And it really is that protection. And when you look at why many people end up having to return, it is that protection and that security that they want over their job. But it's also the benefits. It's everything you need to be a citizen of this country. So that protection, and we've already seen it in the few weeks.
So you're paid full salary for 4 months, but you're guaranteed your job for the year. True?
That's right. Yep.
Wow. Kristin, a few weeks ago, Oprah's Weekly Intention was all about filling your personal advisory board with people that you trust, who want the best for you. But I also don't think you have to take every piece of advice your advisory board gives you. Sometimes you have to go with your gut. Guts normally work out pretty good. How do you know when to listen to others, and how do you know when to ignore their advice?
Cue the body. The body.
Cue the body.
Cue the body. Yes. The body always knows. And so being in a practice of, certainly of dance and of movement, having some type of practice where you're tuning into your body allows me to shorten the gap between what my body's telling me to do and what I know to do. So it doesn't take me as long. It's instinct. Also, as a choreographer, again, for most of my life, I am somatically feeling into a room or a space. So I do the same in meetings then now, fundraising meetings, marketing meetings, new hires. I tap into the somatic experience that's happening in the space, and I move from that. I grew up in a very hypercritical environments, I will say. And that allowed.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
What I mean by that? A lot of criticism in spaces that I was in since I was young, in places I trained or in just all the places I was in. Hypercritical. But I share that because I do think that was a gift in that it forced me / allowed me to tap into my own voice. Okay, that doesn't resonate with me, something that's being put on me, or told to me, right? So I have to drop in and decide, what do I think is true? What do I think is real? So I was already nourishing, I'll use the word, and tapping into that inner navigation. And that is precisely what allows me to do what I do and how I do it.
I'm curious, because we all know that your brother's Jason Sudeikis. I'm assuming you're a Ted Lasso fan. I love that show. But when he was sitting there, I tried to get one of your sweatshirts today because I was going to wear it while I was talking to you. But when Jason showed up at the Golden Globes and he's wearing that sweatshirt, people were like, what's he doing? Is he okay? Why did he get dressed up? You must have had, number one, did you know he was going to do that?
Gayle, no idea. Everyone, team, even as you say right now, my stomach I just had a somatic reaction just now. Just so you know, my stomach just dropped because that's what happened when I chatted with him earlier in the day, and then screen comes up and I was like, I don't want to swear on here, but I was like, and I mean, no, I did not know. And he didn't know,
I didn't know the backstory. I just thought, I like that tie-dye sweatshirt. I wonder whose that is. But it didn't occur to when I heard that it was a family connection. I thought that was one of the sweetest things. I really did. I wonder how you felt because of course he knew it would get attention. He must have known that. And I just thought that was such a nice thing to do.
I mean, truly, I agree. And I thank you for liking the sweatshirt. I designed it. No, I had no idea. And then that he was celebrated for not just something that was that he was regurgitating words, but it came from his heart and mind. That expression that is the show it's very moving. I did not expect it.
It is one of the best shows on TV, but I thought that, I already liked him, but he got 10 points when I heard his backstory. I thought that was one of the nicest things. Emma, I like the question that we were asking, having your own advisory board, but what happens when you feel something and somebody on your board who you trust feels something else? Do you listen to your body? Do you go with your gut? What goes into your decision-making process when that presents itself?
That's a great question. It's so interesting because I feel like, I've had a number of boards and now I sit on a bunch of boards and I'm always so interested in board dynamics. And, the point of the board is that you by definition is that you have people that disagree or show you a different way of things, maybe happening or presenting themselves. And so I've realized that I'm definitely a gut instinct person. And I'm also a pretty kind of fast thinker and doer. You know, I could do with sometimes just taking that moment to like sit back, but I am a bit of a like shoot from the hip, say what's in the, you know, front of my head straight away. And, you know, I have learned to just trust my instincts, but I love that I've kind of surrounded myself with a group of people that will disagree with me. And that's at a board level, that's at a staff level.
Yes.
And I enjoy that. And I think one of the things, you know, this big realization when I came to America, I was like, oh, like people just like to be friends with people they agree. You know, it's like all your friends have to be a Democrat, like for you to hang. And I was like, it's so foreign to me to for that, you know, it's like, I'm interested in other people's opinion. And if I meet someone who thinks the absolute opposite from me, I don't run a mile. I'm like, maybe I have something to learn here. You know, like maybe there's like something they know that I don't know. And so I just think the type of person I am is to, you know, like take that opinion and absorb it. And even if I don't listen to it and act on it, to just like know and feel like you gain from having the other opinion in the room. Like to me, it's a win-win situation.
I know. I so agree. You have to surround yourself with people that don't agree with everything you say. Laura, I'd like to know how you handle it when, you know, the people that you trust, you know, I love Oprah saying about having your own personal advisory board, not necessarily a business thing, but your own personal advisory board. What happens when you, and I'm not talking about your co-founder
Well, we use maternal instinct a lot. I mean, obviously being a formula company and it's
real.
totally real.
Yes.
More often than not, I've gone against my maternal instinct and then sat back and gone, that was the wrong decision. You go to bed at night and you go, I should have just followed my instinct. And, you know, obviously that comes with experience and it comes with saying no several times. But the more you learn that, then the more confident you get, not always pushing back, but socializing your reasoning, being quick to make decisions. And the other thing that I've come to quickly learn as well is that while people will disagree and they push back, they just want a decision. And if you're in the driver's seat, they're just like, just make the effing decision already. It's not always having to agree, but just let's move on. But maternal instinct, we all got to tap into it a bit more.
We all make mistakes and things don't go according to plan. I think sometimes women beat themselves up. Men just say, okay, that didn't work out. They don't look at it as something is wrong with me or I'm not good. Sometimes women just sort of go, oh, that is not how men operate in the world. Would you agree, Emma? The biggest mistake you made and how you learned from it.
100%, you know, and I see it just in my staff, you know, the way a man will present himself a pay increase or the way a woman will, you know, a woman will come in and she'll say, you know, I kind of speak a little bit of Spanish, and the guy, you know, she's fluent. The guy will come in, he's like, I'm absolutely fluent in Spanish. And you're like, what are you talking about? You know, it's just a different way of, you know, presenting ourselves. And I see those differences because we have so many people in like, you know, the most profound ways. I mean, how long have you got? I've made so many mistakes, but one that I think is really, you know, a good one for female founders to think about. I cheaped out a little bit when I started my first businesses. I think I underinvested. I, you know, didn't always spend to get the best possible people in the room because I was so all about, you know, preserving everything. And, you know, I treated, and this was also, you know, a good treat, but I treated every single thing like I was spending my own money. And, you know, you have to speculate to accumulate in this world. And so I definitely have a different point of view when it comes to investing. I really look and think, you know, I invest so much in people and in culture. And I think those things come back and they really benefit you. And I think about, you know, my businesses, the biggest upper hand that we have are our people. And so making sure that they are incredibly well remunerated and have the best set of benefits possible. Like that is what makes the difference between me and my competition, because those people are willing to go the extra mile. They love what they do. And I saw that during the pandemic, that my people were like rolling their sleeves up and saying, well, like, what can we do? How are we going to get through this? And I think that is all about the way you treat people, but also the way you're able to invest in people and their careers. And that's really helped me.
I like that. I like that, Emma. What did you say? You have to speculate to what? What did you say?
Accumulate.
Do you have to speculate? I like that.
Yeah.
Write that down, Emma Grede. Speculate to accumulate. And for you, Laura?
I mean, also the list is endless.
Just give us one, Laura. Just give us one that really turned it around for you. That was at the time seemed devastating, but you figured it out.
I'll double down on what Emma's saying here. I've made too many mistakes not want to say paying, trying to follow the playbook. This is what someone deserves. This is how I bring them in, and trying to manage people, hire people into a playbook. And it is taken me quite the journey to realize you can't put every person into a playbook. You can't operate, especially a disruptive business, in a playbook. And sometimes I dealt with the consequences of not stepping outside of a playbook.
All right. I want to close this out this way, guys. We like to do a quick fire round. So I'll ask each of you guys a question related to what you do. And then you really do have to do the first thing that pops in your head, the very first thing. Kristin, you're in pole position. So
Ready.
What song can I put on? What song can I put on that is sure to get a dance party going?
Drop a Beyonce beat. Drop a Beyonce beat. Specifically, in my opinion, Homecoming. Specifically, drop it down from there. Deja Vu. Y'all ready? And then just begin.
Yeah.
That and then.
Right answer.
What's that?
I said right answer.
I mean, thank you. Good, right? We're already up. Don't you want to dance? It like makes you immediately like, I feel like we should all put this on after and just try to sit still. Just try it. It's just like the drums, everything about it. So
I know it just makes you get up. Listen, I'm not knocking them, but I'm so glad you didn't say celebrate good times. Come on, because everybody gets up on the dance floor. Everybody does.
People love that.
Okay, Laura. Right? Yes. Laura, what's the one thing you want moms to know when they're returning to work after having their first baby?
The career woman in you isn't lost. She's just reborn as a more empathetic version of herself.
Oh,
wow.
Nice. Ding, 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 ding. Drop the microphone, Laura. Drop it. And Emma.
Emma, drum roll. Drum roll.
Yeah. Drum roll for you, Emma. What's
so
the one thing? No, don't be worried. What's the one thing every woman should have in their closet? That's easy for you.
You just got to have a good pair of jeans.
Ooh,
you feel when you put on your jeans and you're like, woo!
Yeah, life changing. Mic drop.
A good
it's true.
pair of jeans.
Or I thought you were going to say, I love that skim dress. You know, the one with the long sleeves. It's long. It's comfy. Comes in a bunch of colors.
It's
I thought you were going to say that one.
Lounge
Yes.
I'm wearing
Kristin,
it.
that is it. Kristin, I didn't even notice, but you're right. I have that in 3 colors.
The soft lounge dress. You're the winner.
I am wearing said dress. I bought it. I put it on. I said, you know what? I'm buying a second one.
Product placement here. I swear to God, I didn't see it.
Not at all.
Kristin,
No, not at all.
Kristin,
and not.
Did you do that? Did you do that because you knew Emma was here?
Well, I wear this dress often. I put on a jacket with a bomber jacket, a leather jacket, a sweater. I heel boot a sneaker. I wear it with my Air Force One. No, this is not product placement.
She said, I have this dress in 3 colors. I didn't even notice that.
Come on.
Bravo.
Come on.
Thank you, guys.
Laura, you're missing out.
I know, I really am. I mean, you should all be drinking like Bobbie lattes or something.
And then if we all just start dancing like this.
Let me just say, Kristin, thank you. I couldn't have planned a better ending. I didn't even see that coming. I couldn't have planned it. I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you, Kristin, Laura, Emma. Thank you so much.
Thank you
For joining us for this Oprah Insider Roundtable. See you at the next thing. Bye, you guys.
Bye.